Football's back, and so are we. Let's get after it. Welcome to the Frenzy, everybody. For the first time in 2025, it is Football Frenzy. Football is back. This is the Iceman, Matt Freites, and sitting across from me in Peoria, Illinois, the sexiest co-host in sports podcasting, the coach, Brad Powell. What's up, pal? Welcome back, my man. We're back, officially.
Iceman. It's been a while since we've been able to tee one of these up. No pun intended. Looking forward to doing it, man. Knocking the rust off a little bit. Just getting on here talking football. I feel like this has been the longest football off season that I have had. I don't know. And really, I shouldn't even say that. Just this last month, all things aside, with really nothing going on, has been brutal. So I had my daughter's travel softball and everything, and that kind of ended at the end of July. But then since then, man, I've just been dying for football season, and it's finally here. I guess sort of it started in earnest last week, but we're getting ready to tee up week 1 tomorrow, and I can't wait.
It did get started in earnest last week, but let's be fair. College football in Dublin, unless Notre Dame is playing, what's the point?
Yeah, and that field was in terrible shape. Did you see that? 'Cause it rained, and it was a mess. They got to quit forcing that.
Farmageddon in Dublin makes no sense.
No, none whatsoever. Notre Dame, I get it, right? It makes sense. And there's maybe a couple other brands, like big brands. You could put Alabama over there, Texas, by a couple that would really draw a crowd. People they love American football in the UK, and it's still kind of a novelty to them, even though the NFL plays 4 games there now. But that's not the UK, excuse me, in Ireland. But anyways, I just think they push the issue too much, and putting a game like that there is kind of weird to me. That's when it has to be on campus. And speaking of games happening here recently, tonight, right now, Nebraska and Cincinnati are playing. I just realized that. I saw on the TV before I came downstairs.
Our favorite school.
Do you have it on by chance?
Absolutely not. What are you talking about?
No? Oh, man.
I probably should. If I was a real sports broadcaster, I'd have it on right here so I could see it. But I do want to shout out, Jonah is back for the first time. He was not here in almost all of 2024. For those of you who need context, Jonah is our super fan. He's out there somewhere with INC merch, one of the only people in the entire world with INC merch. And so it is nice to have Jonah back. And I do want to welcome some of the dads from the dad group here in the Northern Virginia area. And I don't know how to break this to Mr. Braylon, but we are not going to be talking NFL today. However, we will get into that a little bit next week. And I don't like the Packers or the Cowboys, so it doesn't really matter. But anyway, Braylon, thanks for showing up. We love you.
Yeah, I mean, that's cool. That's a big story right now, obviously. And, the Cowboys being, America's team. I watched.
Are they though?
Anymore, I don't know. Everybody just calls them that. I'm not sure if they would still qualify these days, but I did see that documentary on Netflix about the Cowboys, and I found that really interesting.
The one about Jerry Jones, you mean?
Yes. Sorry about Jerry Jones, but really, ultimately about the Cowboys, though. Man, what Jimmy Johnson? What an incredible asshole! Not that I didn't already kind of know that.
As a coach, you mean?
Yeah.
Wow. Oh, yeah. Yes,
I mean,
100%.
Because that stuff would not fly at all these days. There's no way it would. And it's it is kind of weird. It's I don't know what you want to call it, but I see both sides of it. As a coach, I kind of respect it, because hey, you're going to go in there with this, in this room full of professional athletes that any one of them could easily kick your ass, except for maybe the kicker or something, and talk to them the way that he did, and hold them accountable the way he did was impressive. And, and I didn't realize, I didn't really follow. I was 6-7 years old when this was all happening, in real time. I didn't realize that there was a lot of turmoil early on with Troy Aikman, and they benched him, because he and all that. I had no idea that any of that took place. So that was interesting to me.
Technically, Troy Aikman was not Jimmy Johnson's guy. Well, he wasn't his guy, right? Because he had his number when Troy Aikman was at Oklahoma. So There is a lot of stuff that's fascinating. I need to watch that a little bit more. I just always laugh whenever Jerry's involved in anything because, and I get it, it's about him owning the team, but he's one of the least interesting parts about all the success that they had a billion years ago. But the story of him buying the team and all that, I don't know if they get into that, but there is some interest there. Maybe I'll watch it one day. But we're talking college football tonight because week 1 is here. And we're going to get into that slate. It's almost a historic slate at this point, but there were some storylines coming in that I think we should discuss. Now, this is when we discuss, 2023, the Michigan sign stealing stuff. And I understand that people are probably tired of it, especially if you're a Michigan fan. But this recent report came out with penalties, in quotes, I guess. But what are your thoughts on it? Because you kind of brought this up to me last week on something that we should talk about.
Yeah, and really my thing is this. I just want to reiterate what my stance has always been, and that's I don't understand why everyone's making such a big deal out of it because literally everyone's doing it. And I guarantee you that people are around the country are just like, whew, glad that wasn't us, because they probably could have very easily have been almost any program in the country. And, after watching that Connor Stallions doc, like the dude worked really, really hard at it. Like it's not,
for sure.
I mean, it's not like it was something that came easy. And you know what? If you're willing to put that effort into it, like I don't really have a problem with it, truthfully. And I know that the way that they came, a lot of the things they did were, yes, technically against the rules, but I do feel like just logically they came by a lot of it pretty honest, like just by watching games. It's not like they were hacking into like practices and crap or, whatever, videotaping practices, hacking into schools' databases. I mean, this was just good old fashioned legwork.
The only hiccup that I have is that it was very intentional, very premeditated in how they're going to do it. I mean, I saw that they were spending like 35 grand on aftermarket tickets and things of this nature. But ultimately, I still don't believe that it had anything to do with whether Michigan was going to win the national title or not. Like, I just feel like that team was talented regardless of what they did on the sideline. And I think you and I both said at the time, they didn't really need to do this, at least in that season in particular where they won the national championship. What I kind of focused on was the NCAA not really penalizing them in a way that was meaningful. I mean, $30 million from the school, obviously that's a huge chunk of change. No vacated wins and no playoff ban going forward. And what it tells me is the NCAA has no power. And so guess what? They were like, Jim Harbaugh, you pretty much can't come back. Well, he's probably not coming back. So that doesn't really have any teeth to it. That's what I took away from it.
Right.
But
at least it was a punishment. I mean, punishment against the coach, though, because that's my beef with all these things going back to Reggie Bush and whatever, is they always punish the school and the kids when the coach moves on, unscathed. And so one thing I guess is there is, Jim Harbaugh is going to endure a punishment as a result of this, that he can't come back. Not that he would, like you said.
Cool.
But yeah, right. But I mean, I don't have a problem with them not going after like the kids in the program and taking the championship away or anything like that. And like you said, it had no bearing on the fact that they won the game. And I agree. If Notre Dame would have had Ohio State signs in the national championship, I don't think it would have changed the outcome of the game.
I hate to say it, but I agree.
No,
with you.
And because I remember late in the game when Ohio State really kind of like put it away. And I can't remember the receiver's name, really talented young wide receiver for Ohio State. They threw like sort of like a reverse pass or like type of thing, halfback pass sort of thing to him. But like Notre Dame literally was like the DBs waving his arms, pointing, like they knew what was coming and they still couldn't stop it, And a lot of times these defenses, if they're well coached and you scout teams well, they know probably with like 75% certainty, most snaps, what play is coming, sans a few little wrinkles here and there. Like they got a pretty good idea what's coming. You still got to stop it.
Yeah. The stopping part it's the whole game. But anyway, I thought that was interesting, but at the same time, I don't think it's really meaningful. The only other thing about that is Sharon Moore is getting a suspension and he gets to basically handpick the games that he's going to be out, which I thought is hilarious. Like he's self-imposing it, but he's out against like all the directional Michigan teams and the first game of next season. Again, I just feel like the NCAA is powerless, but it was at least a story nonetheless. Now, the other big story is 12-team playoff and there are some changes to it from last year. But essentially, we are getting, again, a more robust playoff before it expands, probably even more at some point. No more automatic bids. You're going to actually get the top 4 seeds are going to move on. None of this conference championship stuff. And I think we'll see hopefully a better result than we did last year because none of the top 4 seeds made it through. Ohio State just basically crushed everybody on the way to the national championship. What do you think about some of the rule changes that they've had this year with the playoff? Do you think it's going to improve it?
So correct me if I'm wrong. And is it no auto bids at all? I thought it was still.
Well, there are auto bids. I mean, what I
no
mean
auto
by
buys,
that,
right? Yeah.
yes, that's what I'm saying.
So
is like yes.
So the power 4 champs are in. The top group of 5 is in.
Yeah.
And then the next, what that would be, 7 remaining teams that are top ranked. But then yes, they're out of those teams. They're going to straight seed at 1 through 12, right?
Yes, at least 1 through 4. Like whoever finishes in the top 4, those are going to be the ones that get the buys. So right. I think that's and the format in which they had it last year seemed like it was okay until we saw the writing on the wall as we were getting closer, and we saw how these conference champions were going to sway things a little bit. And these auto buys that they ended up having, again, it made it so that, I don't know, it ended up having unintended consequences that I don't think anybody saw. And we thought some team is going to really run through the playoff when Ohio State probably should have been one of the teams that got a bye anyway. And they ended up having to play one extra game that didn't matter, and they won the whole thing.
Right. And that's just it. People will be like, well, you got to play an extra game. Well, it didn't hurt Ohio State or Notre Dame. The fact
I would say that it actually benefited them because they didn't have as long of a layoff. By the time they got to Oregon hadn't played in a month. And that's a big drawback of this playoff system is somehow they have to figure out how to bridge the gap between conference championship game or their last game and getting there, because that rust, no matter what you do to this playoff seeding, is still going to matter. I mean, football is a game where you need game speed.
Well, how many years, I mean, as a Colts fan, how many years did we see that with the Colts they would have home field advantage locked up by like week 14 and then sit their starters for 2 or 3 weeks, and they would have the bye to the divisional round, and then they'd go out there just lay an egg because they hadn't played their dudes in 3 or 4 weeks.
Does that matter more at the professional level? But I mean, that's what I mean. Like the professionals, that shouldn't happen as much. But
I would agree.
This level, it should.
I get it more, at the younger ages, because I do think that routine and being focused, like they just don't, yes, while they are adults, they're still developing some of that discipline and maturity that comes with age and experience. So I don't know that there's a solution to it, though. I mean, at some point in time, everybody always, the finals and blah, 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 blah. Soon enough, none of that'll matter. I mean, it basically doesn't matter now. They pretend it does, but soon enough, it'll just, they won't even have to go to school. Not that they are, but student athlete will be a thing of the past very soon.
I was like, that hole's getting deeper, my man. Just keep saying more. Just keep digging deeper.
It's no doubt, but I like the playoff format. I think it's an improvement. I certainly don't think it's going to hurt anything. The top 4 teams should get the bye. I would like to see it, which I think it's going to eventually here, move to 16 teams. I'd like to see more games on campus. I think you should play the first 2 rounds on campus.
Oh,
honestly. And then you want to go to once you get down to the Final 4, if you want to put those at neutral sites, that's fine. But I don't know. I'd like to see the first 2 rounds on campus personally.
I think we said that last year, right? Like the closer you get to the championship, fine. Put them at neutral fields, make sure they're on the up and up, especially the national championship game. Totally get it. But part of the allure of the playoff is you get an extra game on campus. And if the right schools are in, you get the atmosphere that is second to none. And I feel like that should be trafficked in more. But I'm sure it's all about money. And so that's all that they're looking for. But I don't know. Like they need to traffic in these crowds because these universities deserve it. Now, we do have a question from our man here about the most amount of, I assume that's teams, not trans, that could make it to the playoffs. And I believe that's 12. That's the maximum number that we're looking at here. So, I mean, that's pretty decent, right? It's half the top 25.
Yeah, that's not bad. Like I said, I'd like to see it. I think if they don't already kind of have it penciled in that it's going to go to 16 here in a year or two, I'd like to see it go to 16. I think that's a good number. And I heard this, and actually me and my dad did this exercise. I don't have it in front of me now. I could probably pull a few of the matchups out of my rear end, but because I heard a conversation about this, and they said, "Well, do you really think that the 16th best team could win the national championship?" And the answer generally is going to be no.
Right.
Okay. And now I think we were looking at this like, I don't know, like because I think it was this. It was like, okay, that's fine, but do you think that South Carolina could beat? I think I'm trying to remember who it was they would have matched up against. I don't remember if it was like Tennessee or something like that. It was like, do you think South Carolina could beat Tennessee in a game? It's like, well, yeah.
Yes.
And so that's what I'm saying. You're going to get more matchups like that. Like, is the 16th seeded team going to have a roster to make a run and win? Would that be 4 games in a row? Probably not. But could they win 1 or 2, or win yeah, they could. Because that's still a really good football team. And it's probably a South Carolina type team that dropped 2 close games in the SEC. And there's a few teams that had that scenario. And so we're not putting 16 teams in because we think that 14, 15, 16 can win it. You're putting those teams in because we're going to see more high quality college football games. And that's what it's about, in my opinion. And of course, there's a monetary piece to it as well. But as a fan, I just want to see more good games.
And to be fair, there's only really a handful of teams that can legitimately be considered national championship contenders heading into any season anyway. And if they were applying that logic to, let's say, college basketball, why even have the tournament? Because a vast majority of those teams are not going to win.
Did any of us think that Arizona State, Clemson, SMU, Boise State had a chance to win the national championship last year?
Probably not.
No. But to get to see some of those games, right, that you would probably never see otherwise, right? Was it SMU in Ohio State, or was that, or no, SMU
and Penn State? But the thing is that the results were so bad.
Sure.
Yeah, but the results, and I think that's an anomaly though, and I feel like
so are most 1-16 NCAA games usually
very
are blowouts.
True.
But when you get those close ones or those one-offs here and there, it's magical.
Yes, that is very true. Either way, I hope it's a more enjoyable product. I'm still going to watch it. It's not going to take away my enjoyment if the games are bad, but it would be better if the games were good and watchable and you had that kind of excitement and it got everybody excited. Now, one thing before we move on, next year there's going to be some more conference realignment. The Pac-12 is back. They're going to be getting some Mountain West teams. And so you kind of have some storylines there with some Mountain West teams. Boise was a team you just mentioned. And so they're going to be moving on. There's a lot of realignment that's coming. I don't think it's over, but we don't have any that are really on the horizon of like big moves. I'm sure tomorrow that news will drop right after the show, but we don't have that. But before we get into the conferences, I do want to talk about hype, and it's about Arch Manning. And I know we're going to talk about the SEC in Texas, but I want to talk about Arch because literally the thing everybody is talking about right now. And I've heard so many opinions on Arch. He's played a handful of games, really. I think he's like 61-90 or something as far as completions. He's got decent numbers, good numbers. But there's a question that's been eating at me that I want to ask you and anybody who's here in the comment section is, do we glean anything from the fact that he didn't take the job from Quinn Ewers last year?
I don't know. I think that probably had, I have no knowledge of this. I feel like that might have had more to do with them not almost them doing Quinn Ewers a solid, like Sark doing. I mean, because they were probably pretty close, I would say, talent level and whatever. And I think it was like Quinn Ewers had kind of like been the catalyst of this Texas football turnaround. We'll call it that, I suppose, under Sark. And it's like, man, you're gonna like that guy's senior year. You're just gonna write him off to start Arch. I mean, if all things are equal talent wise, and you think both these guys can win, I think it was kind of one of those like give the old guy the nod, and find a way to mix Arch in like they did. Like I said, I think they were more doing Quinn a solid.
But don't you think in some way that could be considered an indictment on Arch Manning? Because you said if the talent is about the same, when every evaluation that we've heard about Arch Manning is he's the guy. Like he is that dude. He's not only a Manning, he comes with the quarterback pedigree, but he also can run. I'm pretty sure he's gained more yardage in college than Peyton and Eli combined ever got in the NFL because they did not run. I'm curious in this because there's so much pressure on him, and it's not as if he's going to get to ease into this. Like, he's going right into the den of wolves here, and that's what we had a comment here about Texas and Ohio State. I mean, the number one team in the country preseason is going to the Horseshoe, and they're underdogs on the road. You know what I mean? And I'm just curious if Arch Manning is having a little too much hype put on him when maybe he still has some developing to do, because if he was the same as Quinn Ewers, and I've seen Quinn Ewers play a little bit of preseason football, oh boy.
Well, I think part of it's come out recently, I think that, and I'm sure that Sark knew this all along, that the plan is like Arch is like, his family has said like he's not leaving early. He is going to stay throughout his eligibility at Texas. So I think if you know that, and you know that there's no reason to rush him along and you could let him cook, I think that has a lot to do with why they went with Quinn Ewers also. Because I don't think that last year, I mean, redshirt freshman Arch Manning, I don't think was going to be a meaningful margin better than Quinn Ewers. And so why not let the kid continue to learn, mix him in, get your little packages. I don't have a problem with what they did. I don't think it's an indictment on Arch by any means. And we know we hear all these stories, right? You have these guys that look great in practice. They're great in 7-on-7. They have all the physical tools, and I'm sure Arch has all those things. Obviously, he's got the pedigree, but we're really not going to know until we see him in the fire, like you said. Oh, and you know what I mean? You never know until you see those guys in that situation. Until you see them, down by 4, a minute 5 on the clock, no timeouts, ball on your own 20-yard line. Let's see who he is then. That'll tell us
comment right
we
here
need to know about Arch Manning.
Is what I was thinking as you were talking, that it very well could have come from the Mannings themselves to say, hey, he's not playing. He's not ready. Because they're doing something very different than what has become the paradigm in college football, where they're staying put and they're banking on his talent, and they are doing this in such a way that they are making sure that Arch Manning is set up for a promising future in the NFL. That's the goal. And I kind of like what they're doing if that's the case. I was only asking because, again, Quinn Ewers, I would say that he was very hyped coming in, but yeah, I mean, they made the playoffs twice, so it's hard for me to say this with a straight face, but he didn't really live up to the kind of hype that I think they thought that he was going to live up to, that he was almost the kind of prospect in a way that Arch Manning kind of is in that way. But I guess that's high expectations to live up to. I mean, the guy made the playoff twice, and they very well could have gone further. I don't think they would have gone any farther with Arch Manning, but it just was eating at me because I heard that asked, and I thought, yeah, damn, I don't know if I have an answer for that.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I think that, and the thing is about Arch Manning don't get me wrong, he cares way more about going to the NFL and being a winning quarterback. He doesn't need the money or any of those things. A lot of the reasons why other people rush to the NFL and all this stuff or transfer for, is the money, right?
Good point.
That's not even a factor here with him at all. And so I think it's just about his development, bringing him along the right way, not rushing things. And, and like I said, last year, I don't know that you would have seen much of a difference in the outcome of any game if he was the starter. So might as well, like I said, let him learn, let him cook. And here we are. And, we'll find out.
Oh, he's going to cook. He's going to have to cook if they're going to beat Ohio State, which we'll get to a little bit later. But this comment here talking about the SEC Netflix series, I believe that's one that you watched and you wanted me to check it out. Yeah, I've heard it's really good, but let's talk about the SEC.
South Carolina, man. So, I mean, it's very, like I told you, Shane Beamer, man, he comes across as really likable.
I'm no doubt. I mean, he comes from a dad who is very likable as well, and they're just good people, at least from everything that I can take from what I have seen from them. But the SEC is going to be the conference that everybody's going to talk about, conference to beat. And I was looking at it today, and there's legitimately 8 teams that I could convince myself could end up winning the SEC. When you look at this conference, do you feel like they're going to be getting multiple bids in the playoff?
Oh, for sure.
And I'm talking like 3 or 4.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think probably, I don't know if Vegas does over-unders, but I mean, I think you'd set the over-under at like
Wish Dave was here.
3 or 3.5. Maybe 3. You can set the over under at like 3 teams for the SEC. And that's really, I mean, it's because, and I don't not being a shill for the SEC by any means. I think last year we really talked highly about the SEC too, but it's just the reality. They're really good teams that play really tough schedules, and they're going to beat each other up. And so you're going to have a team that'll have 3-4 losses. It's probably talent wise a playoff caliber team that won't get a look just because they have 3 or 4 losses.
I mean, in the SEC alone, Texas, who we've already talked about, Alabama looks to have been reloaded, and Kalen DeBoer is going to get a second chance to try and right the ship. I say right the ship, but they lost 4 games for the first time in literally forever. So he has a lot of pressure on him, moving on from Jalen Milroe. And then Georgia's out there. I mean, Kirby Smart's not going to take last year lying down. No more Carson Beck, but that could be good for them. Tennessee, Nico is no longer there. Them and UCLA swap quarterbacks, basically. But Josh Heupel has those boys ready to go, and I don't think they really skipped a beat. I really feel like they are primed to continue to build on that. And then the teams that are out there, you're talking about LSU, you're talking about Ole Miss, and then you got South Carolina hanging out in there. I mean, this is a very stacked conference, and I could convince myself that any one of these teams could win. I could also convince myself that some of these coaches are going to get fired because they're not going to win the conference. Like Brian Kelly, and then you got Lane Kiffin, right? I mean, these are guys that have taken these teams to a level, but they want to get to the next level. But the conference is so damn stacked that they can't.
Yeah, and you can't forget about Florida. I mean, Billy Napier coached his way off the hot seat, but if things go south early this season, he's going to be in trouble again. So he's coaching for his job. Missouri's no slouch.
Nope.
Kentucky, I think that Mark Stoops, he might be one of those guys that is kind of coaching for his job a little bit this season because he's kind of just been, I mean, for Kentucky, he's been great at Kentucky, but they just haven't been able to really get over that hump. They'll win they knock off 1 or 2 teams every year that no one expects them to beat, but then they'll drop a game to Mississippi State or something goofy like that. It kind of almost similar, just a more exaggerated version of what South Carolina's done. But I heard you're talking about these guys getting fired potentially, and I heard this today, and I was like, that makes a lot of sense. And that is that the NIL era, and especially now with revenue sharing with the schools, like paying out of pocket for players, that's going to make it even more difficult to round up this buyout money for some of these contracts. And it may keep more coaches employed longer at some places because all the money's tied up in the roster.
That is an excellent point. But let's all remember, Texas A&M got the money together at halftime for Jimbo, so don't worry about it. That'll happen no matter what. I will never forget that. Never, ever, ever forget the big check out there by the boosters. And boy, Jimbo couldn't have been gone faster. But it may be a good byproduct because we talked about the Beamers earlier, and a lost art in coaching in general, from a school's perspective, is letting a guy figure it out. In today's world, everything is instant gratification. We expect things to be turned around right away. Frank Beamer was not good. Those Virginia Tech teams were not good. And then all of a sudden they were, because they let him stay. They let him build the culture. They let him cook, as you just said earlier. In today's college football, they almost don't have that luxury, but they should, because it takes a little bit of time. We said last year that Kalen DeBoer was inheriting a lot of Nick Saban's players, and then he was going to have to get his guys in, and he's going to take some time through a couple of off seasons to get his kind of team there. And he may not get that chance if they lose 4 games again. You know what I mean? Like, the window is so short, but perhaps a byproduct of what you just spoke about is maybe they will get that chance. And maybe we will start to see some of these coaches build actual legacies, because what I'm tired of seeing is a coach build a program and then move on to the next job, keep going. They all want to be in the SEC, and I don't think that that's good for college football.
Yeah, I do think it's, it's nice when you see these coaches that stay, that are like, they become an institution at these places, the Frank Beamers, Joe Paterno, the way Saban was at Alabama, Bobby Bowden at Florida State, so I mean, there's a few of these guys that they are just synonymous with these places. And like you mentioned, we don't see that much anymore because the instant gratification. And I know a couple of the coaches you mentioned, Brian Kelly and Lane Kiffin at Ole Miss, like they've had similar tenures at their respective schools where they've won big games, they've lost big games, lost to lesser opponents. The difference is, though, I think in the fan bases, like LSU, they've won a few national championships in the last 30 years.
Expectations.
Their fans are absolutely insane. And, they are going to be breathing down the school's neck if they lose their opener this year, which they could, to Clemson, they are going to, that's like going to be the fifth opener in a row that they've lost. So we'll see Brian Kelly pound the table again. I'm sure the press conference and everything else, but I think you're gonna see Lane Kiffin get a little more grace. And I know it's the SEC, but Ole Miss, they're as good as they've ever been.
This is like an unprecedented run for them.
Yeah, I mean they're probably happy as could be with the success that they're having. Would they like to, win the conference? Make a run, in the playoffs? Of course they would, but what's happening now is not a fireable offense, where at LSU, I'm sure that half the fan base is ready to, burn Brian Kelly's house down.
I mean, a lot of Notre Dame fans want that as well. So, I mean, maybe the line's very long for the burning of Brian Kelly. Look, we're not advocating for anybody to burn Brian Kelly's house down. We're just saying
it is the SEC. You never know.
Metaphorically, they want to burn his house down. We are not saying that. But
roll damn tide.
I know. That was oh my God. That's insane. We talked about this, I think, in the offseason about the Nico Tennessee situation. Now, the comment here is about how the coach is making $9 million and they're not willing to pay their quarterback. Well, there is definitely some hypocrisy to that. But if I recall, the wants from the Nico camp were somewhat unrealistic based off of the body of work that he had. I mean, they made the playoff, but he'd only been on campus for 1 year. They were asking a lot of money, allegedly. What he ended up getting on the transfer portal was vastly different than what he was hoping for in terms of getting it from Tennessee. And the comment was talking about how he's likely fired because of that situation, but I don't think so if they win.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm on the opposite side of that situation, I think. And don't get me wrong, this is 100% happening across all of college football, where you have a dad, an uncle, someone that's, because these guys can't have, at least as far as I know right now, they still cannot have like actual official agents unless something's changed recently.
Yeah.
And so it's usually like a family member or somebody. And, it sounded like they were going in like before the playoffs, like demanding money, like on the spot and stuff like that. And it's like, come on. And I heard that Caleb Williams did the same thing at USC, like his last season there. Like, they weren't going to do anything. He's like, hey, if you want to keep playing these games, man, you're going to have to write a check like now.
To be fair, Lincoln Riley didn't have a defense, so maybe he had a little bit of a beef there.
And I don't know that I get that. That's fair, but I don't think that's the right way to necessarily go about it. I'm all about you leveraging your talents and hey, you make however much money you can make, man. Go get it. I got no problem with that. But I think that the proof comes out in what happens once he hits the portal. And that's that he found out nobody else was willing to pay that amount of money either.
He had no leverage once he hit the portal, though, because everybody knew the story. So what university's gonna say, yeah, we'll pay you that much money when they know they can probably get him cheaper?
Sure. No, I get it. I just have I don't like the way that stuff goes down. But again, I know that's just the underbelly of sports. This is just a story that we all heard about. It was in the national news, so I don't want to be too hard on it specifically.
Sure.
Because I'm sure it's happening everywhere, to different degrees. But I think it was a bad move on the Nico Camp's side of things. I think it was a miscalculation on their part that backfired. I don't think it played out how they thought it would. And we'll see where it goes from here, though. He could have great success at UCLA. Tennessee could fall on their face, and he'll be the one laughing all the way to the bank or the NFL or wherever it is he is headed.
Yeah, it's a little early to take a victory lap on whether it was the right decision or not for him. As long as he plays well at UCLA, the money will come for sure. But I just thought that comment was interesting because it's something that we had touched on last year. But as far as like a fireable offense for a coach, there's a lot of guys that are going to leave from NIL stuff. I mean, there's just a lot of complicating factors, and now I think the universities can pay these guys directly, and there's a lot. This is the Wild West now, It's just completely out of control, and they need to figure out something because this just, I don't know. It's going to crumble on itself, in my opinion. But so the SEC is stacked. The Big Ten also might be stacked, maybe. Ryan Day has got to be the happiest coach on earth because I would think the pressure's gone now. You brought home what you needed to bring home, except you didn't beat Michigan. I don't know. What do you think? Is Ryan Day coaching a little bit more loosely this year, or does that national championship ramp things up for him?
Well, I definitely think it quiets some of the rumblings that were going on here, even, right?
Oh, I was going to say, we
About
fired
his
him
job
3
security.
times.
I think that he's definitely bought himself some grace, rightfully so, some leeway. But I think it's harder to stay on top than it is to get to the top. And so we'll see how he's able to handle that. Not too many people have been able to do it for a prolonged period of time at the college level, outside of the Nick Sabans of the world. Kirby's kind of in the midst of maybe doing that, but I he's got. I mean, this had to be a huge weight. I think him winning the national championship had to be almost more of a relief than like a. He was probably more relieved more than he was celebrating. I think to some degree, just because he had to like just exhale and be like, okay, like we're not going anywhere. I'm settled in here for a while, and we'll see what we can do. But it's still Ohio State. It's still one of the biggest programs in the country, one of the most storied programs in the country, and yeah, and I get it. Does the championship even matter if they can't beat Michigan? If he
I'm
doesn't
here
beat
for that, by
Michigan
the
this
way.
year, I mean, it could get real interesting. That would be something. If they drop another game along the way and lose to Michigan, somehow don't make the playoff or make the playoff and get beat early, like he's not getting fired, but he could be one more bad year, one more loss to Michigan away from getting fired.
The reason he doesn't get fired is because they won the national championship last year. That does buy you something, but I still contend if they had not won the national championship last year, because I said it on this show that if they lose to that Michigan team, they were 5-7, that he would get fired. And if they hadn't won the national championship, I swear, I think he would have gotten fired because that would have been too many times, not only losing to Michigan, but not even bringing home the prize. And that's one good thing. Ryan Day should get down on his knees and pray, thank whoever it is that he prays to, that they made this playoff, because he had a chance to redeem himself after that by getting into the playoff, winning out, winning the national championship. Might have saved his career as the head coach at Ohio State. But now he gets to coach in a place where he now is a national champion. He can be put in the rafters with all the other coaches that have won national championships at Ohio State. But you're right, it's tough to stay on top. And one thing I forgot to mention, by the way, there's a lot of quarterback changes at the top in college football, like a ton of turnover. There's not that many guys who are seasoned guys outside of a handful. And Drew Aylar is one of them. Guy you said didn't look like he had the chops to be a playoff quarterback last year. And Nussmeier from LSU, right? A lot of guys changed hands.
Yeah, I mean, and we're going to see that all the time. I mean, just this wide open year-to-year free agency that exists right now in college football is going to be insane. And so, I mean, I think I saw somewhere some program is like literally has like 70 new guys on the roster.
That's crazy.
I mean, that's just got to be absolutely nuts. I don't know how you do it. But it also at the same time though, it allows you the ability to get really good really fast if you can put it together.
Yes.
But yeah, this quarterback stuff is nuts. These guys move around. Like I said, UCLA, Tennessee basically just trade quarterbacks. Some of these new guys that move around, and these senior grad transfers that go from they had really good success at maybe a group of 5, and then they go get plugged in one of the power conference schools to try to make a run. It's really fascinating. But it's also crazy too when you see some of these guys that have been established quarterbacks that choose to stay another year, like Nussmeier and Drew Aller. But we'll see, I guess, how things shake out. But there's always going to be roster turnover now with the transfer portal and NIL.
It'll be interesting to see how the seasoned quarterbacks do, especially the guys that have been with the same program for a while. And are they able to adjust a lot quicker in the season because they have that repertoire with a lot of the players that they have and the coaching staff, the scheme, all that. They've seen a little bit more. But when you talked about Drew Aller, Penn State, they're preseason number 2, and James Franklin has run a very solid program there since he got there, no doubt, right? Most schools would take the kind of sustained success that Penn State has had under James Franklin. But the one thing they've not been able to do is beat their rivals, pretty much, Michigan or Ohio State. And that means that they never, ever get over the hump. Coming into this year, it feels like a make or break year for Penn State because they've been right there the whole time, but they just can't seem to get it done in the biggest of spots. I think James Franklin is safe, but Penn State as a program, are they just at the point now where they can't get over that hump, or is it just because there's so much talent all over the place?
Yeah, there's a lot of talent all over the place, yes. But like Penn State's one of those programs where I feel like is it maybe more of the vehicle than it is the driver? That's a place that's got a lot of resources.
Yes.
Um, and so is it a deal where just the mechanism is so powerful that it really doesn't matter who's at the helm? Like, I'm not saying that this is the floor for Penn State by any means, but like the floor though for a place like Penn State, it realistically is not, should really be playoff appearances, I think.
Yes.
And so I don't know that James Franklin's really like what he's doing is very special or unique because of the resources that are in place. I mean, a lot of people may argue that he's underachieving.
That's what I'm saying. I'm kind of almost arguing that myself because like they have so many talent. I mean, look at the talented guys that they've had go to the NFL. Like Micah Parsons, the guy who just got traded, like amazing, but they never can get there. And maybe I don't know. Like I Penn State's a team now where you look at them, they're iconic. You know exactly what you're watching. You know the pedigree that comes with it. But I feel like it's been a really long time since they've been a team that we feel confident. Oh, they can win a national championship. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, well, James Franklin's like the Jared Goff of college football coaches. He's
That's
just like
great.
But he's just really above average. Like that's what I feel like. I think that I feel like he is really maxed out in what he can accomplish. Like, clip this out of here, man. James Franklin is not going to win a national championship. Clip it, save it, revisit it in January. I just don't think the guy has it in him. I don't. I mean, and I like what he's doing. I mean, he's done a great job, especially, because he was the Paterno stuff happened. Bill O'Brien came in, and then he was the next guy, right?
Bill O'Brien turned that program around fast.
Yeah, but I said the vehicle, right? And Bill O'Brien's a great coach. I'm not diminishing him by any means, and James Franklin's a above average coach, but I don't know, man. I think he's done all he can do there. I think that what we saw last year is pretty much it.
I missed you, my man. I missed you and your take. That's a terrific take. The Jared Goff of college football. That is terrific.
Yeah, good enough to get you close, but not good enough to win it when it matters.
So Dan Campbell, watch out, buddy, because that's happening. Oh, look at this. Penn State is a little bro in the Big Ten. Okay, so guess what? We're onto something. Well, last year, Curt Cignetti and Indiana Hoosiers were absolutely fraudulent in the playoff, according to all metrics. They go to Notre Dame. Notre Dame kicks their ass. Can they do it again?
Yeah, I think so. From what I've heard, by all accounts, the roster's supposed to be better than it was last year.
I'm rooting for them.
So, man, I really was last year, and I liked
they got to Notre Dame.
Well, no, that has nothing to do with it, man. Like, a lot of the shtick kind of like, as much as I really loved it early on, kind of like wore on me over time. And, but I think that you have to be that way in a place like Indiana. You have to almost be just like delusionally confident. Because I mean, one, you have nothing to lose. It's Indiana. And two, if you can just like, it's like that fake it till you make it thing. And if he can build a roster there, the curious thing will be how long does he stay?
Right.
If he has the same success.
100%.
Is he gonna? Because he's one of those guys. He like everybody else. He's one of those guys that come out and said, "Oh, my family's here. I'm not going anywhere or whatever." But we'll see.
Bullshit.
We'll see what happens if they make the playoff again, and maybe if they find a way to win a game or something. There's gonna be people come knocking.
Look, buddy. You pay him $8 million a year. That family can move right quick, buy a nice little house wherever it is that the university is at. We can make it work. Curt, if they have a really good season this year, he needs to almost jump on that. because I don't feel like Indiana is a place where resources are going to be there where
Dude,
you can be good long term.
I'm very transparent about, like, how do you get a kid to commit to go live for 4 years in South Bend, Indiana, and go to Notre Dame?
That's
But
the
at least
past. It's the brand.
yes, the brand, the history. You are an hour and a half from Chicago, or whatever. Like, so you're not like just Bloomington, Indiana is the middle of nowhere, man. Like,
You would know you
like
live in this area of the
yeah. I
country.
mean, like literally. I mean, my dad can chime in. I'm sure. Peoria might be bigger than Bloomington, Indiana. Like,
he's been awfully
population
quiet.
wise. Yeah, he's probably just taking it all in, I guess. Yeah, we haven't said anything that has triggered his
haven't gotten to Notre Dame yet. That's
argumentative side.
Yeah, Bloomington is small.
Yeah, probably so.
But at the same time, remember my take last year about Indiana basketball and how being the coach to Indiana basketball really doesn't mean anything because it's been so long and they're not a program that really matters as much as they used to. I mean, ever since Bob Knight hasn't been there, right?
Yeah.
Indiana football has been a laughingstock. So you get Indiana football to the highest of heights, the only place for you to go is somewhere else.
Is the SEC.
Or wherever. Here's a good question. What's an upgrade besides the SEC? Because like that's obviously the jump, but there's not that many of those.
Like a realistic upgrade?
Yeah, like what would you consider an upgrade from Indiana? What kind of a school here?
Almost anywhere.
It's a little much.
Oh man. I mean, I would say
is Virginia Tech an upgrade from, you think so?
I'd say so. Yeah, there's more tradition, there's more sustained success, there's a better following, a better fan base. Virginia Tech's a football school. Indiana is not. I would consider Virginia Tech an upgrade. Like the weird things that get into the conversations of like Duke. Would you consider Duke an upgrade? Or is Duke similar? But Duke's had success in football a little bit.
Yes.
Like
decidedly
in the last decade or so. Yes, decidedly a basketball school. What about like, here's a place that's off a lot of people's radar that would be in a Texas Tech would be a big upgrade from Indiana. I think they were good last year. I think they're expected to be pretty decent this year, but they kind of like they fly under the radar, man, because they're in the shitty Big 12 and it's just and they're overshadowed by at least two other programs in Texas that are significantly better than them. Not significantly better than them, but have much larger fan bases.
Well, isn't it interesting because like the Big 10, most people would consider the second best football conference in America, but top to bottom, I think you've made this argument. They're not stacked top to bottom. Like when you look at the SEC, there is a lot of great schools almost all the way down until you get to the real bottom of it. But once you get to the bottom of the Big 10, and we're not talking necessarily record wise, but like resources wise, because I think that's what gets guys to go somewhere else is the resources. You made this argument.
That's a good point.
Yeah, but you made this argument with Lane Kiffin last year where you said if Florida calls him, just because it's in the SEC still, that's an upgrade for him. The money is different. The resources are different. And you take that job. That's an upgrade to him. Even though they're in the SEC, that's an upgrade. Indiana is in the Big 10, but they can take an ACC job, which the ACC is decidedly a less good conference. That was terrible. Is decidedly worse than the Big 10 in an overall grand scheme picture, but not every job is better. You know what I mean? Like a lot of those jobs are better than Indiana. Like Georgia Tech, probably maybe a better job than Indiana. Maybe, I don't know.
I think it is.
Louisville, right? Think about all these schools. Texas Tech is a great example because they are a football school and a basketball school, but you're not really sure which, but it's not Indiana. Texas, you're going to get a lot of resources at Texas Tech.
And yeah, still you're the second, you play second fiddle in your own state to Notre Dame, but like in Texas Tech, I mean, you're playing third fiddle behind Texas and A&M. So, and I mean, I don't know. There's a lot of good. I mean, heck, Houston's pretty good too, man, in Texas. So, I think that
they can be. They have not been very good recently.
Fair.
In basketball, they have.
But I think that for all the reasons you stated, man, like it's a basketball school, lack of resources. We'll see though. He's sat there. He's been very adamant that he's not going anywhere, but
can't wait till we report on his new job on this show sometime this winter if everything goes well.
Hey, here's one. Arizona. Is Arizona a better job?
Ooh, that's tough because like that's a basketball school.
All right.
It is.
I
Arizona State might be better.
Arizona State is for sure. I think Arizona might be. I mean, it even just for the climate, it might be.
That comment proves my point. Michael Penix Jr. was at Indiana and left.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like there's a lot of great football players from Indiana.
Yeah. They just don't stay in Indiana, which is fine. Right. Unless they go to Notre Dame, which perfect.
Right.
One team in the Big Ten that I've been hearing a lot of chatter on is Illinois. Ryan Leskis, our boy, the Illini. That'll be interesting. Are they the new Indiana this year? And I think Oregon, somewhat, I don't want to say under the radar, but like Oregon is out there. Obviously, Dan Lanning, one of the better coaches in the entire country. Michigan, I think, will be vastly improved. So there's a lot to look forward to in the Big Ten. A lot of teams that are going to be vying for things. ACC, Clemson. Everybody's talking about Clemson being really, really good, despite the fact that I heard them called a developmental program because Dabo does not use the transfer portal.
Who called them a developmental program?
Hold on. In the sense that they get guys and they keep them for a long time. So they have an old team that's experienced rather than all of the turnover because, as you know, he is so stubborn in how all of this works. But Dabo's interesting because he kind of buys himself a little bit of grace by winning the ACC last year. He's got Cade Klubnik back again, an experienced quarterback. They should be good. Like, this is one of those years where it's like, okay, Clemson, if you're going to come back, if you're going to get back in the national spotlight, this is the year to do it.
Oh, for sure. Because I think that, Miami's going to be should be as good as they were last year.
Yes.
You do have the Georgia Techs, the Louisvilles. We'll see what Belichick's able to do at North Carolina. But, like, there's not anyone I don't know that there's anyone outside of Miami that's really poised to, like, threaten you for the throne in the ACC. So if you can take care of, I mean, they gotta, their schedule, man, is rough. I mean, they open with LSU. They're going to play, obviously, their ACC slate, and then they're going to end the season with South Carolina. So, I mean, you're not going to be able to say that, they dodged playing good programs because they certainly aren't doing that. But we'll see. We'll see, I guess. Like you said, this is definitely their opportunity to return to the Clemson we knew, 5-10 years ago. But, what happens? Like, what if they have a bad year? What if they fail to make the playoff? Like, how quickly does the shine wear off Dabo?
I think it's already kind of gone. Like, a couple years ago, he was kind of fighting with people calling into the radio show. But last year kind of bought him something. But they weren't even that good. They kind of underperformed last year. They just happened to win the conference championship game. And if there is no conference championship game, they have no chance. But this is what people are saying is a legitimate national championship contender.
Oh, no.
We're getting more and more distance from those national championship teams. As you said last year, Trevor Lawrence ain't walking through that door. Deshaun Watson ain't walking through that door. So they got to figure it out. And Cade Klubnik seems to be a guy that can get it done. And if you can't take advantage of having a seasoned quarterback, they're not bringing in transfers. He refuses to do it any other way than his way. And I feel like you have to win. And if he doesn't win, like, what are we doing? Are we Dabo's,
I have a scenario for you.
Yes, please.
Okay. So Alabama has a really bad season. Clemson has a great season. Okay. Goes to the national championship game. Let's say they don't win, whatever. Makes a run to at least the semis. Kalen DeBoer gets fired. Dabo to Alabama. You don't want to be the guy after the guy. You want to be the guy that follows the guy after the guy, right? He's an alum of Alabama. And I'm not saying that I don't think Dabo is going to coach his way into getting a job like that. I'm just saying if he takes Clemson to that level and a job like that comes calling, I think he should take it.
Okay, so the idea that you should take a job that comes calling to you is 100% correct. Like, if Alabama calls me and says, we want you to be the head coach at Alabama, I'm on a plane to Tuscaloosa before they even finish the sentence. Like, that's a no-brainer. Whether he should take it or not is a different matter. But whether that's a good idea, I don't know. Because if he wins a national championship doing it this way at Alabama, I don't see that. At Clemson, that is not working at Alabama. It is not working that you're, number one, going to keep players for 4 years that are that high of a level. and you're not going to use the transfer portal in any way because you're going to lose guys for the portal. 100% you're going to lose guys. And there needs to be some other way than just going and sitting on mom and dad's couch to get players. This is a ridiculously unrealistic scenario because they're not winning the national championship. And I honestly, it's time for me to get clipped. I think Dabo is overrated as a head coach.
Ooh, yeah, you might be right.
I am right.
I don't think that's a super hot take. Do you think he could get away with arguing with fans on a radio show at Alabama?
Maybe.
I don't know, man.
Well, okay. So to give context to that, he was arguing with the fan because the fan was an asshole, right? The fan asked him about and he did bring up a good point about their expectations have changed over time because he made that happen. Like, if you said bring Clemson to the heights, they've already been there. The only thing is that the Alabama job wasn't open.
Right. For sure. No, that's true. So, okay, like this totally, like, talking about fans and interacting with fans made this pop into my head. Related to the SEC, related to the documentary Any Given Saturday it's been on, where, they're bounced around to these different programs. And there was one thing, a common theme I saw from program to program, and this isn't unique to the SEC because I see it in the Bradley basketball fan base too. But, like, there would be these public functions, like a radio show in a restaurant somewhere or whatever, where the coach is there and then there's an area for the public, and it's literally 90% 70-plus-year-old men and their wives. Like, it's all old people, man. It's all like boomers, every one of them. And they're just like, the Arkansas one was like creepy. Like, they were all doing their woo pig thing. And I'm like, this is like a cult.
Yes.
Like, I'm not even kidding. I was like, this is
welcome
awkward,
to the
man.
SEC.
Like,
it just matters more.
Couldn't imagine, like, if you got hired at a job like that and you weren't, like, indoctrinated in, like, this culture at all, and you showed up to this thing and these geriatrics are like chanting and everything else, like, to start off this meeting or whatever it is. Like, I mean, it was one of the most bizarre things that I've ever seen. And I'm like, what is it about, like, that age group that, like, gravitates to these things? Because, like, Bradley basketball, for years and years, they've done this spaghetti supper at, like, the I-2 hall, which is like the equivalent of like an American Legion or something like that. And when Wardle got there, after a while, they got rid of it. And oh my gosh, man, you would have thought that they, like, changed the name of the university. Like, people raised holy hell about it. And, like, yes, there are, like, some of our friends that are Bradley fans, like, there are some of those people that are younger that go to it, but, like, it is mostly old people. And it's like they just love getting FaceTime with, like, the players or whatever. And it's like, it's very bizarre. I don't understand it. And maybe it's a generational thing. Maybe they have nothing better to do, but so weird.
It's a paid event, or is it a free event?
The spaghetti supper is paid. You got to buy a ticket.
All right, you got to buy a ticket. I was like, because old people love themselves some free shit, so they'll show up for a free plate of food for sure. But we're kind of off the rails here. Which, if you're new, this is where we do our best work. But I got to ask you a question, and it is related to this. So, Brian Kelly, do you think he washes his hands every time he has to shake an LSU fan's hand?
I hope so. I hope so, man. I hope he, like, turns around and gets a little, like, to-go hand sanitizer out and, like.
That's what I'm saying. Like, in front of the fans, he's all about it, and as soon as he goes behind closed doors, he's got nothing but bad shit to say about the people that he probably generally encounters.
Well, you've seen Swamp People at some point in time, I imagine. I just imagine, like, that Shelby guy off Swamp People, or those guys that you can't understand what they're saying, and, like, they going up to him, and their little, I mean, Cajun accents and everything else, and it's like, I'm telling you,
hope this
dude,
happens.
Like,
please.
that is not a place that I would want to piss off the fan base.
No, but I just mean Brian Kelly looks like the kind of guy who does not want to be around these people, but he's the head coach of people that are, like, so into this. Like you said, I don't know. Brian Kelly just seems like that kind of guy. That's just my opinion.
No, he's an asshole from the Northeast. I mean, I don't disparage what he did at Notre Dame. He's the winningest coach in Notre Dame history. Won a lot of games there. Took him to a couple national championship games. Like, guy's a good football coach. He can coach ball. I've always thought he was kind of a dick, but, like, as far as his football coaching ability, you can't argue with it. I don't blame him for leaving. He may have felt he did all he could do in South Bend, and Notre Dame, I think, is at least in the short term, appears to be better for it. Brian Kelly's, living the life in the SEC. So, trying to make a run at it with the big boys. We'll see what happens. But I don't know. He probably does, though, I'm sure.
I love it. All right, look, a couple more items before we get to Notre Dame, because I know you probably have a lot of thoughts on Notre Dame. So Big 12 is, again, going to be they're going to be a conference that's going to be one bid probably, and they're going to beat up on each other. I think Arizona State is poised to win that conference, but I'm very fascinated by Colorado, obviously Coach Prime, but coming off of the medical issues, this is post Shadur now. They've got some dynamic players, especially at quarterback, that came in through the transfer portal. This is his time to show that he can do this, right? Because you have said it was daddy ball for a while, and now we're away from all of that. And if he can win at Colorado with this, then you and I are rooting for him. We always have. And they had a great season last year with Shador. And obviously they're losing Travis Hunter. That's huge. Like, you're losing a generational player. But right. But I'm very fascinated to see how this looks for him. And I'm rooting for them, especially after the health diagnosis thing. And it seems like it kind of humbled him a little bit. Like the way he was talking to the media, he's been very much about people taking care of themselves, getting healthy and stuff like that. And I love it. And I think this is a good time to shout out your dad, because your dad dodged a huge bullet today. And we're keeping the OG around for a little bit longer. And I think everybody is better for that. So shout out to you, Rick. I know you're watching, and we wish you the best out there. And then, of course, you got the group of 6, Boise State, Tulane, JMU possibly lurking out there. They're probably not going to win a national championship, but they could make it in there. So let's get to your boys, Notre Dame. We are not talking Virginia Tech today. I don't have the energy for that. But Notre Dame, you have energy, because I think, again, Marcus Freeman, I'm going to say this. This is the best team Marcus Freeman has ever had, except we don't know who's playing quarterback, at least at a consistent level. But outside of quarterback, this may be the best team he's ever had.
Yeah, it's a really good football team. The one interesting thing that's kind of an unknown right now, they lost Al Golden, the D coordinator, the Art Briles Award winner for the best assistant coach in the country. They lost him to the NFL. So,
Did you say Art Briles?
Is it Broyles? Broyles.
I was like,
Broyles.
Art Briles would be the. I was like,
it's the Broyles. I don't know. Maybe it's not even Art, but it's like the Broyles Award. Maybe it's maybe the guy's name's Dave. I don't know.
Art Briles is the guy who got fired at Baylor for sexual harassment. So let's back that train up a little bit. Whatever the award is, it is not the Art Briles Award.
They've got Chris Ash from Rutgers, which is on paper not a super impressive hire. So we'll see how it goes. But Freeman's had a relationship with the guy to some degree. They lost their running backs coach to the NFL, I believe. And so they actually got Penn State's running backs coach, made a lateral move, left Penn State to go to Notre Dame and be the running backs coach. And that was a deal where, again, there's a connection there. And he told Marcus Freeman, he said, when you have an opening, he's like, you just call. I don't care what I'm doing. You just call. I'm coming. And so
I wish I was in that position in life.
Right. And so the biggest question I have about Notre Dame really is more so less about this team, more about the program as a whole. And that is Marcus Freeman shifting the narrative on Notre Dame? The national narrative on Notre Dame football is Marcus Freeman transforming that with his personality. Obviously, the success on the field helps, but I know you pay more attention to Notre Dame now because of me and this, but as a non-Notre Dame fan, what do you think about that?
I think that Notre Dame got extremely lucky to play the team that they played in the national championship, because everybody hates Ohio State unless you're from Ohio State. Marcus Freeman is extremely likable. He's devilishly handsome. And I think so far, he's shown that he's pretty damn good at what he does. They brought him in. It was a little bit of a rough go, and they make the national championship game last year. I would say that is a successful season, unlike anything else. Now, you said it was his third year, right? And normally guys in their third year at Notre Dame do great things. Yeah. He did great things. I didn't hear many people talking about Notre Dame being fraudulent going into that game. I think they just happened to play a team that was better both on paper and on the field. And they could have played that game 10 times, and Ohio State probably wins 9 times, and there's no shame in that. But I don't find them as unlikable, because I think their fans seem more humble with Marcus Freeman at the helm, because I would guess or say that their fans maybe have taken on a little bit of that personality, because I don't get the sense that Marcus Freeman is the kind of guy that you find unsavory as a fan.
Yeah, I hope so, and I think you're right. One of the many things I like about Marcus Freeman is that when he does talk publicly, you're never hearing him. He's never patting himself on the back. He's constantly always talking about the things they could do better, the things that they've learned from. I mean, this is a guy that like the Northern Illinois game, as painful as that was, um, I think that's maybe the best thing that could have happened to that team last year in hindsight, of course. Uh, I think, maybe one of the best things that could have happened to Marcus Freeman, because like, there was a documentary that kind of followed them all year long that I watched, and like every pregame uh pep talk, whatever, he's referencing that game. Remember the pain. Carry that pain with you. Remember the pain of Northern. I mean, like halftime, whatever. I mean, just constantly. I think this guy wakes up every morning and he thinks about how he felt after the Northern Illinois game, like, and that, like, for real though, and like just that motivates him for his day.
Yeah, maybe it does.
And but he's not afraid to look in the mirror. He's not afraid to evaluate, reevaluate, consider that there's a different way or a better way to do things. Um, he seems like he's really receptive to listening to his assistant coaches, and he's not a my way or the highway. He's not afraid to make the tough decisions, but he's not a my way or the highway kind of guy. You know, and if you really trust in yourself to make good hires, you shouldn't be. You should trust your coaches. But to talk about this team a little bit this year, yes, very talented. They return a lot of pieces on both sides of the ball. They return the best running back in the country, and Jeremiah
Such
Love.
a stud, my God.
He is. He's so good. They have a better receiving core than they had last year, mostly, via the transfer portal. That receiving core is as good as it's ever been since Freeman's been there. And then, obviously the quarterback position was a big question mark. They're going to go with CJ Carr, redshirt freshman, grandson of Lloyd Carr, who was a longtime head coach at Michigan. Yep. This was the expected outcome. I think more people thought it wasn't going to take as long for a decision to be made. I think more people thought that he was really going to separate himself from Kenny Minchey. And by all accounts, it's not that Carr underperformed through training camp and in the preseason here. It's more so that Kenny Minchey really performed well and pushed him. Like, Kenny Minchey is the one that made this really hard. It wasn't Carr underperforming, which is great for the program to have that. Both these guys, it sounds like, really put out, and there's going to be mistakes. I mean, he's getting thrown into the fire right away too. They're going to Miami. Notre Dame hasn't, they're 0-6 at Miami the last 6 times they've played there. So we'll find out, what he's all about. But I think that the fan base needs to be patient, needs to understand he's going to make mistakes. He's got a big arm, and Freeman's, one of the reasons I think Freeman almost wanted to go with Minchey, because Minchey's he's the safer bet, because he's gonna check it down, and he's going to do everything in his power to not turn the ball over, and being a defensive minded coach. Freeman is all about that, right? But let's protect the football, so on and so forth, which you should be. I'm not saying you should be reckless, but CJ Carr has a big arm. He's got a lot of confidence in himself. He's going to push the ball down the field, which is naturally going to lead to more opportunities for turnovers. So we'll see, though. I mean, I think that, Mike Denbrock, the offensive coordinator, is as good as they come. So we'll see how things come together on Sunday night when they take on the Hurricanes in South Beach. But I feel good about it, man. I feel good about the Irish. We're going to find out right away, man. They got Miami week 1, and they got a bye, and then they host Texas A&M. And I have secured tickets, at least 2 tickets currently, to Notre Dame and Syracuse, which is like November 22nd. It's senior day. So through a connection at work, which is nice. So we can talk more about that. I don't know how that's going to shake out as far as I think my dad's a little scared to go because he's worried about the weather being cold, and he's still trying to finagle a way to go to Orlando to the Bradley MTE that's happening. So around that time. But
tell you what, Rick, I'll come up, I'll drive you to the airport, and then Brad and I can drive to South Bend. So you can have a good little trip. I think Notre Dame's going to be just fine. So a couple of things before we get to this week's slate. I want to say I I think a coach on the hot seat. I said I didn't have energy to talk about Virginia Tech. Brent Pry is 100% on the hot seat this year.
Yeah.
Like, it's just, that's all I got. Lincoln Riley, I'm curious about that because they brought him to USC to revitalize that program and not really revitalized just yet. Now they're in the Big Ten. They struggled last year. We'll see how that looks. Brian Kelly could be interesting because the expectations are high. And the other guy that I had on here that I completely forgot about because his tenure has been like this is Brent Venables at Oklahoma. Because remember, they struggled last year mightily. And that's a guy that they brought in with high hopes. And Oklahoma does not settle for being middling no matter what conference that they are in. So I think the coaches on the hot seat should be interesting. But let's get to week one. So I said this was unprecedented week one. First thing I want to get out of the way, Lee Corso's final game day. I did finally get to watch it, the documentary on him. And you were right when you talked to me offline about this. The scene where they had him watch the video tributes, I've watched it a couple of times, and it is so moving. It is so authentically real in what is being said to him and how he's reacting to it. And we're losing a gem from college football. We really are. And just how many indelible memories that dude gave us over the years with just picking headgear. I loved everything about it. And from what you can gather from the way he is on TV, he's exactly that person in his real life too. We need more of those people on the earth, kind people.
Yeah, I thought it was excellent. And really, I liked seeing. I wasn't super familiar with the background of Game Day and like how it came to be and started as a studio show and how it evolved over time. So I found that really fascinating. And then, like, is there anything more special right now, at least in the public eye, than the relationship between Lee Corso and Kirk Herbstreit?
No.
I mean that's where for me, man, that's where it really was like, oh, it was nice seeing the others, but it's like I was watching it and like you see him. You see Reese Davis and they're going to, Desmond and these guys, and like, Kirk's coming, right? And it's like that anticipation too of like knowing it's coming and knowing it's probably going to be really emotional. And it was, man, it really was. And it's like, man, that love those two share that's the type of love, man. I think all of us would love to love like that, and all of us want to be loved like that. And it's special to see that.
Kirk Herbstreit helped Lee Corso age gracefully in a medium television that people don't generally get to do that. Lee Corso had a stroke and came back and definitely has had a bunch of missteps. He's struggled at times. He's 90 years old. I mean, you kind of expect that from it. But you see them, or you saw them week by week, and you saw Kirk be so graceful with him to cue him up on things, remind him of things, and just watching him walk him through into that theater and his heartfelt words to him. I mean, it's very much like a father-son relationship and an aging father at that. And their embrace afterward, like it is special. And Kirk Herbstreit gets a lot of hate because of his Ohio State biases and things of this nature. But it seems like at his core as a human being, at least with Lee Corso, he is there. That's a special bond that they had. And I loved it. I just loved everything about it. And it'll be interesting to see what game day is like. They've shown us that with Pat McAfee, but Lee Corso was a staple of that. He was the cornerstone of what game day was, all the energy behind game day. The thing I took away from it, man, is when I say to people that when I die, I want people to say things to me like, I loved being around him. He was a good person. He made me a better person. And one of the comments in a video that I watched said this, and that part of it was, this is the definition of giving somebody their flowers while they're alive. And I thought that was the perfect way to encapsulate that whole segment.
Yeah, I mean, they should almost have like, as morbid as it may be, like, especially if somebody has like a terminal illness, you should almost have their funeral before they die, right? So they can see all those people and hear all those things, Yeah, it's as much as we think that funerals are for the dead, funerals are for the living, the way we do them.
Yes.
And so, yeah, I don't know. I think like you mentioned the other day, actually, I think in your video you shared with me, where you talked about picking up the phone or telling those people that, you care about them and let them know while they're still here how you feel about them and that stuff. And that's really important, man. And like we all get caught up in the day to day with work and our lives and everything else. And we lose sight of that stuff because we take a lot of it for granted, really. And, we get those little brushes with that here and there, where you're faced with reality and got to consider it or you got to, it happens and you deal with it then, but you don't want to go on with those regrets, those woulda, shoulda, couldas, and things like that. And I think that when you see that relationship between Lee and Kirk, it's like those guys, they it's all out there, man. Like those guys are gonna whenever Coach Corso's time comes, like they're gonna know that they knew exactly where they stood with each other and how they felt about each other and what they meant to each other. And I think that's really awesome.
I do too. Week 1, Texas, Ohio State. This is the game. Now, it's the friggin' Big Ten. It's at noon. I hate the fact that that's at noon, but it is what it is. So Arch Manning going to the Horseshoe. We already talked about this a little bit. I feel like Ohio State has an advantage. They're favorites in this game just because they are at home, but both of these quarterbacks are mostly untested. Honestly, I wouldn't be shocked if either team wins this game, but I just feel like Ohio State, the momentum coming off national championship at home, I feel like they have a slight edge, but I don't think that the loser of this game has anything to worry about as it relates to the playoff.
Correct. Whoever loses this game, I don't think it'll hurt their playoff chances if they take care of business the rest of the way. One interesting tidbit about this game is that this is Texas is playing Ohio State for the second time in a row. They lost to him in the semifinal. This is their very next game. I don't know how much that really matters, but no, man, I'm with the horns, baby. I think Texas gets it done.
Okay. LSU and Clemson, the battle of the Death Valleys. So, fun stat about Brian Kelly, he has not won a debut or a week 1 game since he's been at LSU. So, maybe this streak will be broken. But like I said, both of these teams have high aspirations. Clemson, I think, has a lot of pressure. Maybe not the same as LSU because LSU is a team that just everything is a little bit different. But here's the thing. I feel like LSU is just more seasoned in games like this. And Clemson has not looked very good when they've had to play a tough SEC opponent in week 1. Remember what happened to Georgia last year?
Yeah.
It was terrible. Brian Kelly is a really good football coach, and I feel like there's just no way he can lose 4 straight openers. So give me the Tigers in this one.
So I think LSU needs this win more than Clemson does because, as you mentioned earlier, Clemson still has that safety net of being able to win the ACC. With the SEC slate lying ahead for LSU, this is one that'd be really nice to have in your back pocket. It gives you a little bit of breathing room as you head into conference play. That being said, oh man, I don't really feel good picking either one of these teams. Truthfully, but I'm going to take Clemson. I'm going to drink the Kool-Aid on Clemson, and I'm going to pick the Tigers.
All right. Notre Dame and Miami, Catholics versus convicts in some form or fashion. Look, I know Miami is back. They're always back every year. Notre Dame's just way too talented. Give me the Irish.
It'll be interesting. There's a lot of unknowns here. How's Carson Beck get plugged into the Miami system? The funny thing is like Georgia fans somehow are trying to convince everyone that it's addition by subtraction, the fact that they lost Carson Beck. They thought it was like the end of the world when he got hurt last year. Now it's a great thing that he's gone. He can be turnover prone at times. The Notre Dame defense, I really think still going to be really, really good. And I think, they have a great secondary. The linebacking core is elite. The question mark is, how's the quarterback play? And I think that Notre Dame's going to have to come out early, kind of punch Miami in the mouth, take the crowd out of it, and try to quiet things down a little bit because you don't want to put that kid in a position to go out there where it's literally a back and forth. The crowd's in the game the whole time, where he's going to have to. You don't want the game to be put on his shoulders.
No,
on the road first time. So we'll see how it goes. I mean, I feel good about it. If Notre Dame's who we think they are, this is a game they should win. I think ultimately if Notre Dame can come out of these first 2 games against Miami and Texas A&M at 1-1, I mean, I think they'll be just fine, but I see no reason why they shouldn't be able to open 2-0. So I'm going to take the Irish, baby.
That's a tough tough open to the season, especially if they win both of them and then they got to play some scrub team in week 3. Look out. That's what happened last year where they got that big win. Oof. But it can't happen twice. So I'll just say that it could.
Don't say that.
A couple other games I have on here, Alabama and Florida State. The only reason I bring that up is because, again, Alabama's trying to retool. Florida State was awful last year, just absolutely awful last year. And it's a weird game for Alabama because, again, you're traveling to a place that has some kind of pageantry. They can't be that bad, but they should be better. I just wanted to highlight that game. And, of course, we can't get out of here without talking about Virginia Tech and South Carolina. Shane Beamer beating up on his dad's former program. And I'm going to say this, the Carolina is 8-point favorites right now. This game is in Atlanta. Virginia Tech has no business winning this game because I think South Carolina is very good and their quarterback is just better. But what I think is really going to be on display here is the fact that there is something about Brett Pry's teams that just are not prepared in the biggest moments. And you saw it on display so often last year. Remember how happy and excited I was heading into the season? And by halftime of the first game, I was done.
Now, to be fair, Vanderbilt turned out to be pretty damn good.
Right, but it wasn't that they lost. It was how they looked. And this has been the story of his tenure there. He's 16-21. Last year, they returned 21 starters. They should not have been so ill-prepared. They had a lot of injuries, I get it. They lost a lot of close games. I think South Carolina is going to win this game because I think South Carolina is destined for bigger things in the SEC. I just want them to look better. I just want them to look more prepared. They just did not look that way. And that has been so far what I'm used to seeing out of this tenure. That's my opinion on it, but I'd love to hear yours.
You're not wrong. This is a tough one. I mean, because Virginia Tech's in a position where they really need to get off to a good start, and it's hard to do that when you're going to play one of the best teams in the country. And I really think that South Carolina is that. I mean, they're going to be. They are a playoff caliber team. Now, whether they play themselves into the playoff or not is yet to be determined. But it's just a hell of a way to start.
Yeah, it is,
and it really is. And I can't. This would be huge for Virginia Tech. I don't think it's really an indictment on Brent Pryor or the team if they don't win this game, depending on what fashion it happens. And if they get the doors blown off of them and come out and appear to be unprepared, like you said, then there's some reason for concern. But if they go out and compete and just lose to the better football team, I think you can live with that.
Sure.
For sure. But I mean, I can't sit there and say that I would, I'm going to pick Virginia Tech in a game like this at all. But South Carolina is not above dropping a weird game either, because
it is very true. But I think Shane Beamer has that program rolling in the right direction. Well, look, week 1 is here. Football is here. So we are going to be here every Wednesday from now on. We promise. Last year we were not good about it. This year we're going to be better about it. If you remember last year, Brad, I had a bunch of stuff to handle with my dad and everything. Yeah. I'm stoked about this football season. I know, but I'm stoked about this football season. I'm stoked about this program with you. We had a great turnout tonight, some great commenters out there, and we're looking forward to bringing more of this to you. Before we get out of here, though, and you mentioned it earlier, tomorrow is 4 years since my mom passed and left this earth. And for some reason this year, I have been thinking about it a little bit more. And I think I've been putting this year and everything turmoil that's happened in my life this year into context and thinking about where I've come in the last 4 years. And Brad, one of the best things about all the growth that's happened for me in my life is our friendship started since she passed. And it's been one of the greatest pleasures of my life to get to know you, spend time with you, do this with you. And all of that is because I took a gamble on doing a podcast, and here we are. And we would not have met had I never done that, and that growth happened in this time period. So as much as I miss her and as much as it is tough to think about her not being here, I do like to think that she would be rooting for us in this, and that this journey that we are both on together is meant to be.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, and we're easy to root for first of all. Let's be honest. But no, I think I agree with everything you said as far as those feelings are all mutual. Man, this has been a great friendship that I really value. And it is funny just the circumstances that kind of lead to these things happening. And here we are, right? I mean, we get to talk about college football. We talk about Bradley basketball. We get, my dad's involved in it now and everything else. And it's just all this stuff has blossomed, all these different unique friendships that have spawned off of our friendship, things like that. Some of your friends I know a little bit on the periphery, and some of my friends, it's really neat how that works out. And I have no doubt in my mind, man, that your mom will be proud of you and then the growth you've made and what you're doing with yourself and your family and being a great husband and father. 100%, man. Like, she's smiling and she's super proud. No doubt about that.
Appreciate that, bud. Listen, if you're listening out there in audio, you can call us, text us, tell us we're full of crap. 703-718-6314 is the number. We will play your voicemails on a future show. Just keep it semi-clean. I'm not going to put any racist shit on there, but hey, look, a few F-bombs here or there, let it fly, because no doubt we're going to piss somebody off. Well, everybody, you can follow us on social media if you want to. You can like this video if you want to. All I ask is that you show up every single Wednesday for us, 9 p.m. Eastern. Brad, it has been a pleasure this week. I hope this finds everybody well and safe, as I always do. And we'll see you next week, folks. This is Football Frenzy.